Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new here. Today we're going to be doing 6 spooky spots to explore in Manitoba. By the way, they're not really abandoned, but you can go visit them. So you get to, so I'm going to share the stories too, which I see on here, which is awesome. So this one here is number 1, Lower Fort Garry. At over 175 years old, it's no wonder Lower Fort Garry is supposedly haunted. The construction dates of the fort's 7 main buildings range by a few years, but the artifacts and historic interpretation all harken back to the 1850s when the grounds were in peak use. The big house built for a governor of the Hudson's Bay Company is one of the fort's hot spots for odd occurrences. Some people have claimed to see the ghostly apparition of a woman in white in the basement kitchen, and more than a few seances have been hosted in the parlor. People have also reported feeling the presence of a past resident in warehouse, which at different times was used as a jail and asylum. Paranormal investigators and hunters have often make this one of their must-visit stops when in Manitoba. That's cool. And the pictures just look so cool of like the old, because it doesn't look like anything has changed, and they have the old like pioneer way of living. Okay, next is number 2, the Seven Oaks House. Seven Oaks House is Winnipeg's oldest and supposedly most haunted. It was built in 1851 from the Inkster family. Mary Inkster frequently suffered from migraines and nausea and had an upstairs bedroom where she would rest when she was unwell. Some staff at Seven Oaks House now report feeling those same symptoms when they enter Mary's old room. People have also claimed fog has seeped into the dining room from under the door while they try to reach out to the spirit world. Whether the house is haunted or these are simply signs of an old home, we may never know, but you can visit the site for yourself when it's open in the summer months, or hop on the Trolley of Terror. Trolley of Terror? Ooh, I'm gonna remember that because Nathan and I were going to there for a weekend, and yeah, and get a look inside a few rooms after the dark. Cool. I would love to go on that. That'd be so cool to check it out. Okay, next. Number 3 is the Dalnavert. Again, I apologize if I'm saying these wrong. The Victorian era was a time marked by death. The invention of a new and more dangerous machinery meant more people were dying before their natural time. In the fall of Dalnavert is a house in the morning. It displays the morning traditions that were followed in the Victorian era when the home was built. Mirrors are covered in black cloth. Portraits on the wall show people in black mourning clothing. A coffin is laid out in the parlor, and the clocks are stopped. It was believed that if you didn't stop the clocks when someone died, their spirit would stay to haunt the house. Whether there is a spirit that stayed behind in the house, you'll have to visit to find out for yourself. If you believe in that sort of thing, I just think the history behind it is beautiful. Not necessarily the deaths and all the illnesses and everything that they all went through, but the buildings. The buildings itself, they're so beautiful, they're so intact. And honestly, it's a great way of honoring people who have suffered back then in those days, because of course there was a shorter span of life back then. There was a lot that people went through back then, and there's a lot people go through now, and yeah. Anyways, next one is, what are we on? Number 4 is the SS Kenora at the Marine Museum of Manitoba. I didn't know there was a marine museum. That's cool. We're going to be doing that. Though not technically a building, this still counts as a spooky site. It's the largest ship at the Marine Museum of Manitoba, where you can explore its inner bowels, including the sleeping compartments and boiler room. The SS Kenora was built in 1897 and served as a passenger steamship for about 50 years before being decommissioned and moved to the Marine Museum of Manitoba. Even in the daytime, the narrow hallways, abrupt corners, and rooms with seemingly no exit make this one unpredictable place. But come nightfall, it truly feels like a ghost ship. Some claim they've heard the sound of a piano playing in the parlor area where dances were once held, and it's hard to shake the feeling that something could pop out from behind a corner at any moment. As you make your way down the hall, you can only get inside the boats at night during the Marine Museum's annual Halloween haunt. Cool. Number 5, the Fort Garry Hotel. Wow, that looks like a really beautiful hotel. Just the fashion back then was phenomenal for some people, or for whatever it was, and like the colors and everything. And yes, this world was way more judgmental back then. I know there's still lots of judgment now. However, lots of things were not accepted back then, and that's what made life harder for some people. But I just mean like the buildings and like the fashion and how people lived. It seemed like an interesting time, and throughout the years. And 2000s are really cool too, with all the technology coming out. But I would have loved to have lived back then a little bit too, because everything just seemed more color. I don't know how to explain it. It's just fascinating to me. History was fascinating, not necessarily all the world wars that happened and the terrorists and all that stuff and all those crazy things that happened back in the day, but just like how they lived their daily lives. Okay, this one here is the Fort Garry Hotel, which is the most famously haunted building in Winnipeg. There seem to be a few guests who never even after death. Many staff members have reported a phantom dinner who sits at a table near the window in the Broadway room. Harmless enough, room 202, however, is known for a few more chilling tales. Visitors who stay in this room have reported objects moving, phones and cameras not working, and feeling a presence lying in the bed beside them. Many guests who dare to stay in this room request a room change before the end of their stay. And would you dare to stay in this room? Not for me. No, thank you. Knock on wood, I haven't had a ghost experience or anything, or paranormal experience, but I don't want one. However, I do find that I do believe in them, but it'd be too creepy for me. Anyways, so let's move on. Next one is Fort La Reine Museum. So on the outskirts of a portage is La Prairie sits Fort La Reine Museum. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. The museum is made up of 25 buildings built between 1879 and 1940. Paranormal activity has been reported in 4 of these buildings, making this a perfect location for a frightful night. One of the supposedly haunted spots is the train car used by Sir William Van Horn. Its narrow, claustrophobia-inducing hallway leads to Van Horn's former bedroom, where interpreters at the museum have said they found objects moved and clothing in complete disarray. These are many supposedly haunted spots in Manitoba, including homes where spiritualism and seances are frequently practiced, theaters with ghostly audience members, and empty buildings filled with haunting noises. Discover all these haunted Manitoba locations yourself to take one of the ghastly or ghostly tours offered in Winnipeg around Halloween. Cool. So that was it. That was the last one. They're all really cool to see. I think the stories behind them is what makes them the most interesting, and why they were abandoned or left the way that they were. And the stories behind them and what made them haunted. Basically, there's something called, I can't remember, it was a story, and it was a person asking, or a kid asking, someone was asked, it was, I can't remember the name of the song, or the story, but it was like yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, or something like that. and it talks about how we're only seeing what we're believed to be. We only see what we believe to see, and we can believe if and we can't really. I can't remember the story, but the moral of the story was we can only see what we can see and what we were told that we could see, basically. So there is the unseen world that we don't know about. So that's interesting to me. And where did that come from? I guess that kind of resembles and connects to ghosts. So ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call them, they're there's there's an unseen world, and that's probably a part of the unseen world, or maybe Santa Claus is. This sounds crazy. I know I'm not crazy. I'm just saying maybe there is an unseen world that we don't know about because we were not taught to believe in it, or we were taught to not believe in it. Sorry. Anyways, that is it. I promise I'm not like I'm just stating the fact that there's a story out there that's like that, but it opened my eyes to see. And this, you could take this too as something for yourself, personal, like whether it's your like a business you're growing, or if you're self-developing or personally growing yourself. So this one would be like, it'd be really cool because because if you can't see yourself going further than your career, then your belief is so limited. Maybe look at it where, okay, you can see it now. You can see it in your mind, and then when the moment you see it in your mind, then it's there. You're starting to manifest it. That's something you believe in, and I think that could you could use it that way too, or you could see it that way. Anyways, I just want to add value to you guys at the end of all these areas where you could go visit. I'm going to talk about not only abandoned places, but cheaper places you could go, because who doesn't want to not travel? Like, I want to travel. If I could travel the rest of my life, I could. I would. Anyways, and then and that's what I do. I help people. I help people budget and stuff like that. So I want to be able to help and bring value to you guys where I can, and on top of going to see places, like, we want to travel on a good budget. Unless you have tons of money, I want to travel on a decent budget, but I also want to live my life and not always be, and not like, I don't know how to explain it, but I want to see more and experience more. That's what I mean by that. In terms of traveling, in terms of seeing the world, having experiences, and that's why I want to share these with you guys, because that's what I want to do. These are added to my bucket list. So that is it. Again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Bye now.